Hello and welcome to July's edition of The Lead Out, Cycling Weekly's monthly racing show, and it's our big Tour de France preview. My name is Paul Knott and I'm joined once again by Yanto, founder of L'Ecole and former pro rider. But before we get into our big Tour preview, let's take a look back at the previous month's headlines. Chris Froome will miss the Tour de France after suffering multiple injuries in a time trial recon crash at the Criterium du Dauphiné. Tom Dumoulin will also miss the Tour after failing to recover from a knee injury he sustained at the Giro d'Italia. Jakob Fuglsang won the Criterium du Dauphiné, confirming his status as one of the favourites for the Tour. Egan Bernal took top honours at the Tour de Suisse, but Team Ineos counterpart Geraint Thomas crashed out on stage 4. And Lizzie Deignan took her first victory since returning to the sport after giving birth with a stage and overall victory at the Women's Tour. The time has come, the Tour has finally arrived, the build-up races are pretty much done. But first, before we get into our big Tour preview, I'm just going to break down a few key stats from this year's race. So, 21 stages, 3,460 kilometres with a grand départ starting in Brussels, and the race stays in Belgium for the first 2 days. We have one individual time trial and one team time trial, both of which are around 27 kilometres. And there's also bonus seconds on offer of 10, 6 and 4 for every mass start finish. And there was also bonus seconds this year on certain climbs, which we'll go into later on in this preview. And we have 5 summit finishes across the Vosges, the Pyrenees and the Alps for the traditional sprint finish on the Champs-Elysees in Paris. Without further ado, the first stage we're going to look at, we're not going to go into every single stage in depth just because, well, we don't have all the time in the world either. And also we just want to pick out the key stages. First one. Stage 1, Brussels to Brussels, flat, 194k. That'll be fun.
I was looking at the description thinking that is going to be carnage. You got Belgium, lots of road furniture. You've got the pressure of stage 1 of the Tour and everyone just fighting for position standard. Yeah. Then you've got not really any significant climbs to break it up, and if there are, then there's a huge fight to get into the bottom of them. Yeah. So again, that just adds to the pressure, and I think there's going to be a lot of guys just really nervous trying to stay upright and out of any danger. So it's going to be an interesting one.
No, definitely. So the stage 1 itself rolls out of Brussels down towards Tour of Flanders country. And it crests it's named the Mer de Gramont. It's actually the Mer van Gouwsbergen if you follow Flanders history. It's just that it's been translated into that for the Tour. And then it goes up to Bodsberg as well, which is the old 1-2 finish of the Tour of Flanders in the past. But
they kind of want to avoid that making too much of a feature of the stage. They just want it to be a sprint stage. They want to be as predictable as possible and everyone to arrive across the line safely. That's the idea.
Yeah. The next day, another big stage, team time trial. Also in Brussels, around Brussels, 27.6 kilometres. Slightly shorter than last year's one, which also came early in the race on stage 3. So last year, just picked out 3 key teams which lost time. So UAE Team Emirates, AG2R and Groupama FDJ all lost around a minute to Sky, as they were known back then. BMC, obviously they don't exist anymore, but they're gonna, this is slightly shorter, but you could lose a minute, easy.
Yeah. And technology as well, bikes, kit, helmets, practice, how tight the group is, they're all pros, but still it's a very specialist activity, team time trial, and you can improve 15, 20 seconds over a 27k course just by really nailing the splits and all that kind of stuff.
No, definitely. So moving on to the first summit finish of the race, stage 6 from Mulhouse to Planche de Belleville, and we've got a bit of a twist this year. We've used Planche de Belleville quite a few in the last decade. It's been one of the most popular climbs in the Tour, but this year they've added a little twist at the end with a gravel section, and after the initial finish they have a gravel section of about 1 kilometre, and then the final kick up to line is 24%, which you may well remember the old finish line, which they're just appearing over the crest. That was 20, so this is 24, and
gravel.
Gravel as well.
You were saying 1 bike length will be a time gap.
Yeah,
basically.
It's gonna shake a lot of riders up because especially if they haven't recce, because in the Vosges region, it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. Like, you don't go there for altitude training because it's not high enough. You only race it really, like, unless you're Thibaut Pinot and live there.
Definitely the kind of stage that would suit him. Not super high mountain, very punchy, and he does know the climb very, very well. You know, he could probably train out there whenever he wants, kind of thing. So that will make a difference. And if it's specialist onto that one climb, you just know that little steep bit is going to flatten off a tiny bit, so actually you can just hold on for 20 more seconds, and then you know you can get to the next stage, and you break the climb down into steps like that for yourself. Whereas when you are taking it on for the first time, or you haven't done it for years, actually it can be a lot harder to understand just how to approach each part of the climb, because it does obviously have a sort of personality and characteristic of how to approach it to get up there the fastest.
Moving on to our next key stages. There's a few flat stages in between. So this is stage 13, the individual time trial from Pau to Pau. And it's the only individual time trial of the race. And judging that Tom Dumoulin, Chris Froome, Primoz Roglic aren't going to be riding, this is probably a huge day for Geraint Thomas if he gets there, because he is probably the best time trialist out of the GC contenders in this year's race now. And to make up time, gain time, this is where he's going to do it.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be an exciting time, and it's not too late in the race. So some of the specialist time trialists will also be really, really keen to try and go for a stage win. And there aren't huge opportunities, like you said. This is the only individual time trial. So yeah, there'll be a few guys there going for glory, and then hopefully the GC contenders will also be very much on it.
No, exactly. But the following day is one of the key stages in the entire race, a summit finish up the Col de Tourmalet, which we haven't seen since 2011 when Andy Schleck and Alberto Contador were duking it out in the fog. But yeah, it's only 117k as well, which throws another spanner in there.
I've said this before on short stages, you get an exciting first part, you get a slightly boring middle part, and then you get an exciting second part. Well, 117k's just cuts out the middle part.
Yeah.
It's exciting at the beginning, and then it's exciting at the end. So I think it's good. There's a couple of short stages in this year's tour, and I don't think it's a bad thing at all. And I don't think they're any less exciting or any less respected by the riders. So you look at that profile, no rider's going, it's all right. The Gruppetto's actually worried, because these stages actually cause more of an issue because their buffer is built up in the middle stage when everyone's kind of going steady. And then, the percentages of gaps they've got to work with to come into the time limit is a lot bigger. But here, everybody's going to have to be on it. And we saw it a couple of years ago when Demar was getting dropped on the first climb, and he really struggled. I think he got eliminated that day because they just went out 100% full gas. And then there's no let up, and they keep going all the way to the finish. And some guys who just aren't quite there, or feeling it, or a little bit tired or whatever.
With it being the day after the time trial, riders are going to know where they stand on the GC before the climbs. And basically, I'm thinking Nairo Quintana. Because he probably would have lost time in the team time trial, probably would have lost time in the time trial if he hasn't had any other mechanicals or issues on the way. This is a stage where he will target to get time back. The next big stage sees us going into the Alps on stage 18 from Embrun to Valois, which hits some of the biggest and iconic Tour de France climbs in the race's history. So
there was a lot of talk about this tour being the highest tour for a long time, and you just look at this stage with 2,000 meters, 2,300 meters, 2,600 meters, and that's not even the highest 2,600 meters of this year's tour. It's significantly high. It's a different world up there above 2,000 meters, and these guys, in not just this stage but the other stages, they spend a lot of time up there. It really starts to break the body down, and fatigue just gets intensified. You're already on stage 18 or whatever, and it's just going to really open the cracks. And I think that's a good, well-designed tour. Actually, we've seen it in the Giro, how if you back end the exciting stages, you do get a few hiccups and changes and stuff, which is obviously great from a spectator point of view. And I think the tour's kind of taken a little bit of the book of the Giro and gone down that sort of track. So yeah, we'll go to the next stage as well and also see that it happens again.
Exactly.
Lots of altitude and lots of climbing, so potentially some shake-up of the GC.
Definitely. And one thing that may shake up the GC even more is this year, on certain stages and certain climbs, they've got bonus seconds at the top. And there's actually bonus seconds at the top of the Col de Galibier, which is kind of, I feel like they're trying to lure someone out to attack, get the seconds, and then just carry on down the other side to try and win the stage. Just try and animate the race a bit more. And I mean, if it is still all tight to play for, those bonus seconds just could be crucial in themselves as well.
They haven't specified the bonus seconds exactly yet, have they? Which I think is interesting in itself. It's quite I can't remember the last time they did that. In fact, I can't remember the time they did that. Maybe on summit finishes in other races they've had bonus seconds, but not midway through the stage. So that is quite a new
with it being at the top of the climb as well, it's kind of literally trying to get people like, come on.
They're worth going for, absolutely. You know, a couple of seconds here, a couple of seconds there. We've seen podiums won and lost by seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
This year's Giro. In my head, I've got a picture of the polka dot jersey going away for the mountain points and then staying away to the finish. That's a perfect sort of scenario, sort of stage. It's not mountaintop finish, so you're not going to get the same sort of battle, and people who are strong but not quite top 5 GC will be looking at a stage like today to just go and make a bit of a difference, or either move up the GC or get some mountain points for that mountain competition.
Yeah, definitely. Then the next day, Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne-sur-Tine, which is 126.5 kilometres along, another short stage, but it's the highest point of the Tour this year at 2,770 metres up the Col d'Iseran. So, as you mentioned, the theme for this... 60 Ks above 1,700 metres on this stage, and it's only 126 kilometres long. So you basically get to altitude and
stay there. And again, no, it's stage 19. It's so hard up there, and I've done the Col d'Iseran a few times. It is a monster. It's huge. You go up to sort of 1,700 metres, and then you've just got another 1,000 metres of climbing, which in terms of altitude gain, that's a big climb.
And the following day, the final of this three-day hellish route in the Alps is the road to Val Thorens, which is 130 kilometres long. The final stage before Paris, and basically it's now or never for the peloton. And it's an absolute drag of a climb up to the end, 33.4 kilometres. Yeah, because it goes uphill straight away, literally. Like it starts at 500 metres, and then even by the sprint, which is after 11k, that's up to, they've already gained 150 metres in altitude, and then they actually get onto the climb itself. So yeah, it's going to be, this is what the race organisers are hoping for, that it's still all to play for at this point, and it all comes down to that final climb. But 33 kilometres long. That is, obviously again, it's not all up, it's down, but that's just skews the average gradient. It says 5.5%.
6% is serious. Below 5%, you start to get a lot of benefit on the wheel. Yeah. So actually the group stays together a bit more, 7-8%, and it's really, really tough.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then the final stage is into Paris, which is always a bit of a procession. First of all, you're kind of riding slower than a training ride and drinking champagne and just posing for photos. Once again, hopefully finish the tour in style. As we mentioned at the top of the show, the big news of this month, Chris Froome will not be riding the Tour. And then that was added with Tom Dumoulin. All right, so 2 podium contenders won't be riding the Tour. And I feel like we have to mention them before we get into our contenders, because that is 2 huge names that aren't even going to be lining up.
You look at the last sort of 5 Grand Tours and how many of the podiums in those 5 Grand Tours consecutively have been occupied by those 2 riders. Suddenly there's a big space. It's a great opportunity for the next generation or the next young contender to come up and show their form.
Yeah, definitely. And also this morning, before we came into film, we heard Fernando Gaviria also not lining up either, which obviously different end of the spectrum in terms of, but just as big impact, as I mentioned, took the yellow jersey on stage 1 last year.
And a very, very strong sprinter who regularly likes the first week of a Grand Tour. He's very, he's a strong sprinter in a fresh scenario, and he will definitely have created a space as well, for young sprinters. Who's going to be next, I don't know. But yeah, there's a bit more opportunity there.
Yes, definitely. But let's not talk about who is not going to be there and who is going to be there. And let's start off with last year's winner, Geraint Thomas. He had a bit of a hiccup. It looked like Team Ineos's race was falling apart day by day. But because he crashed at the Tour de Suisse, had a bit of a mishap. Seemed to be okay, had a bit of a cut above his eye, and is now back on the bike training. But not ideal.
You say not ideal. It's a funny one. A little bit of extra rest, a little bit of extra freshness can sometimes have a positive effect. It's not intentional, and obviously no riders want to fall off, but I would definitely not count Geraint Thomas out in any way whatsoever. I think he's obviously got good condition, and if he can stay upright in this year's Tour and work his way into it, because you can see it's back-ended, if he's starting a little bit fresher, that actually could,
could we see him maybe undercooked at that first summer finish up Planche Belfi? Maybe he'd not shine on that stage, but build into the race.
Exactly. There's plenty to go at in the last 4 or 5 stages.
Yeah. So he has actually been assigned team leader, but there's just a little problem on their team. Egan Bernal has kind of forced his way in as not really a plan B, but probably arguably race favourite.
Yes.
So yeah, he won the Tour de Suisse, but also nearly came a cropper on the time trial, but it looked so good.
I'm so impressed by him, genuinely. He is a complete weapon on the bike. Like, such a good climber. He's also seems and comes across as a very relaxed character. He's not scared. He's brave. He's got talent in bags and bags of bag loads. And you know, I don't just mean climbing a talent. He's got bike handling skills. We saw in his time trial.
Definitely. And then one other key favourite, which kind of does go under, he goes under the radar, Jakob Fuglsang. He won, even though his results this year have been incredible. So he's won the Dauphiné, which is always a prime tester for the Tour. I mean, the amount of times that people win the Dauphiné go on to win the Tour. He's won Liège, Bastogne-Liège, and has literally been in the top 10 of every race he's done this year.
Yep.
But I think because he rides for Astana, they're obviously not the most popular team, and like, obviously he's Danish, it's not like, we'd obviously over here in the UK, we're not gonna be focusing in on him that much. But if you just look at pure results, why isn't he more of a favourite in a way? Because he's just been incredible.
It's true. He definitely stepped up a level this year. Clear to see, and been so strong in those classic early seasons classics. Plus, obviously winning the Dauphiné. I'll be interested to see how he finishes the final 4 or 5 stages. And the time trial is obviously not his strongest point, but he's got good enough form to hold his own. Maybe not taking time, but not losing too much.
And then moving on to the French hopes for this year. Once again, they're still looking for that elusive Tour de France win. That's, I don't even know how many years it's been now, it's been quite a few, but so Thibaut Pinot and Romain Bardet both had decent build-ups. Pinot looked strong with the Dauphiné, and as I mentioned, it's him, the race is going to the Vosges, which if he can make a good start, like on home roads.
I agree. We saw him a couple of years ago losing time on the pavé section of the Tour in the first week, and he really cracked him, and he was actually having a tantrum on the road, which is a little bit unprofessional, shows a slight lack of maturity, but hopefully a couple more years on and he's got a bit better. But I agree, for him to start strong, I think will build his confidence, and he will then ride progressively better through the week. Whereas if he's kind of on the back foot, he doesn't necessarily have the strength of character to stay disciplined and focused on his objective.
Yeah, and then moving on to the other key contenders. I mean, because Dumoulin and Froome aren't riding, it's kind of opened it up, and you kind of got to name all these people because you just don't know how it's going to unfold with the politics, especially with Ineos.
You say outsiders. I think that's not to put your list down.
My notes,
That's slightly unfair because Kruijswijk, you know, is an absolute engine. If he's on, again, he's not been climbing quite as well. I've just noticed him coming out the back slightly sooner than I've expected. Quintana, but he is definitely going well. Adam Yates, definitely, absolutely. Dan Martin will definitely be there. You know, those guys, they are all going to be in a front group of 10, 12 guys. So depending on exactly which stage and exactly how they're going, we're going to see some exciting racing from every single one of those.
Yeah, and those 4 riders, they're all in the Dauphiné, all were either in the top 10 or Kruijswijk and Yates, they were both in the top 10 and pulled out on the final stage ill, but they were obviously showing that they're ready to go.
I think that's a big, brave step to take. You know, it's not all about the Dauphiné. They want to think about the Tour coming up. You know, you've got to take a strong decision if you want to make sure, if you are going to come down with something, you give it time to come out, get past it, and then freshen up and start, you know, on form, 10 out of 10.
So moving on to the sprinters and the contenders for the green jersey, starting off with the Italian rider Elia Viviani. He's been in very good form recently, 2 wins at the Tour de Suisse after a disappointing Giro. Came home early, I mean, understandably, because the second half of the race was horrendous for sprinters, but he's just building in once again.
He didn't have a very good Giro. He got disqualified for the one stage he crossed the line first on. So hopefully he doesn't have to go too far to make a better tour of the Giro.
No, of course. And then the next name to look out for, Dylan Groenewegen. He's been so consistent all year. Like, he's had 2 wins recently at the ZLM Tour, but he's picked up a stage win in every single race he's done, just chipping away, getting a win. Again,
having raced with Dylan Groenewegen for quite a few years, he is one of my favourite sprinters. He's an exciting rider. He is so unbelievably fast when he's on it. And I do think he will come out with a stage win, probably more than most of the sprinters in the list.
Another out-and-out sprinter, Caleb Ewan, first appearance at the Tour after being excluded last year from Michelin's Scots lineup. He's now with Lotto Soudal, and he'll be looking to add to his 2 stage wins at the Giro.
Yeah, I feel like he's settled into the team. You know, he had a bit of a point to prove as well early season, and he was clearly very keen to do that because he came off last year a little bit low and not quite firing, and then definitely come in and, like you say, won a couple of stages at the Giro. He'll want to do again the same here at the Tour, and I think he's totally capable of it, and his team will be fully behind him or in front of him in the lead out to give him the best chance possible.
Yeah, and then we can't, obviously, probably the most obvious out of the lot is Peter Sagan. He's won the green jersey. Every year he's finished the race, pretty much. No classical wins this year, and only 3 all season, but are you going to bet against him winning the green?
I mean, the green's all about consistency,
Yeah.
and it's also about dominance. You know, even the intermediate sprints, he's dominating the lead out, he's dominating the approach, he's kind of putting everyone in their place before he's even started, and that's a big part of the green jersey. So he's very, very experienced at winning the green jersey. How many stages will he win? That's another conversation.
He doesn't have to win stages to win the green. He did it.
Exactly.
He's done it before.
That's why I was trying to separate out between the green jersey and stage wins. He's totally capable of winning a green jersey.
But then my only note here, Mark Cavendish, ... because
we don't know, do we? Yeah,
because of that, exactly. I don't know what to really say. He
is a bike racer. He is a bike racer. What I mean by that is when he turns up on the start line, autopilot is going to kick in, and he is going to be hungry. He's going to be determined. He's going to want to prove all of everybody who's questioned him wrong over the last, however long, and absolutely cannot count him out, in my view.
Interesting to see. And then I've listed 3 riders here. Wout van Aert, Julian Alaphilippe, Vincenzo Nibali. They're basically wild cards because you could see any one of them winning individual stages. We've seen Van Aert in the Dauphiné winning 2 stages. Alaphilippe won the KOM jersey. Nibali said he wants to win the KOM jersey this year, but I would not trust him until he's 30 minutes out the race.
Yeah, I agree. And he's going to have a real strong fight with Alaphilippe because he's also going well, and I think he took the KOM jersey at
Dauphiné.
Dauphiné, he did, yes.
Did, yeah.
But Wout van Aert, I mean, what a rider. When you're a young kid, you dream about being as talented as Wout van Aert. I mean, so strong and so versatile with taking, time trials and bunch sprints. It's ridiculous. But I'm almost guaranteed to see a stage win from him. I can't fail to do something when you've got a repertoire, when you've got an engine like that. It can be so versatile. Someone's going to, get beaten.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, it'd be good.
Finishing off with our predictions, putting our names on the line. I don't even want to rekindle who I predicted last year, but it was Nairo Quintana to win. But I won't be going for him this year. But Yanto, who are you going to go for to take the yellow jersey?
I've got a slightly controversial one. I think Bernal is strong enough and good enough and reliable enough to work through a whole 3-week Grand Tour. And he's missed his Giro, which he was originally supposed to be targeting. So, yeah, it's whether how much time he loses or doesn't lose in the time trial to Geraint Thomas, probably.
Yeah. What about anyone else? Any other tips for the rest of the race?
Yeah, I think Dan Martin actually probably has one of the best chances of a podium.
Yeah.
And I'll be really pleased to see him do that. He's been talented and always climbing in the front group, very consistent. And then Adam Yates as well, I think, taking a strong decision to pull out the Dauphiné stage before the finish, will be really on form to get a good result in the Tour as well.
Definitely. I'm going to go a bit more of a... I'm putting my neck on the line again. I'm going to go for Jakob Fuglsang just because of his form this year has just been so good. And I just think that if he was going to perform really well on the Grand Tour, this is it. This is now. Like, he's got the form leading into it and have the whole support of his team. And I think it would just be down to if he can... I think as well, going under the radar will help. So I think that may help him. But, I mean, he could easily just disappear off and finish 10th. Easily enough.
He's not finished outside the top 10 in any race he's taken part in this year.
But I have just predicted him, so I have given him the kiss of death.
Yeah.
But, sorry, Jakob. I hope I haven't done that. But we did ask our Cycling Weekly Twitter followers who they thought was going to win. And over 3,000 votes going, which is one of our biggest of recent memory. And Geraint Thomas got 37%, Egan Bernal got 39%. My boy Jakob Fuglsang got 11%. And then we also listed other, just to give people the
Bardet,
choice.
Pinot.
And they got 13%. So collectively, we had Bardet, we had Pinot. There was even a vote for Boris Johnson, which was kind of
Let's not bring
haunting.
politics into it.
Was pretty haunting, to say the least. But yeah, I mean, people are agreeing with you and think Egan Bernal is going to take yellow when it matters. Thank you.
Thank you.
For your insight and predictions, and hopefully people don't mortgage their house on our predictions and come after us on social media. But yeah, and we hope you enjoy the racing as well. Do let us know who you think is going to win the Tour in the comments section below. But until next time, enjoy the Tour, and we'll see you then.